Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling a really tough one, a source stack detailing a case that's just incredibly frustrating and heartbreaking. It's the mysterious death of Shanquella Robinson.
Yeah, it really is.
And this deep dive is crucial, I think, because it's almost like a masterclass in how those initial official stories, can sometimes be completely
I'd be
constructed,
vectored, yeah.
only to fall apart later when, well, digital evidence just blows them up.
Mm.
Irrefutable evidence.
It's a profound case study, definitely.
Hmm.
We've got police reports, doctor's notes, a really detailed autopsy, and then the big one, that viral Quio.
Right.
And they all paint such wildly different pictures of what went down in October 2022.
It's dizzying.
It really is. The core conflict here is just stark. You have the initial claim, conventional tourist alcohol intoxication.
Which sounds plausible enough on the surface for a Cabo trip, maybe.
Yeah. But then you slam into the forensic reality. A brutal, violent death. Completely different things.
So our goal today is to really meticulously unpack this timeline for you. Shanquella was 25, an entrepreneur from Charlotte, North Carolina. She goes on this luxury vacation to Cabo San Lucas, Mexico.
And within 24 hours of arriving, she's dead.
Yeah. And we need to understand not just what the sources say happened, but maybe why this case went from being called a tragic accident to this ongoing transnational criminal investigation.
Involving two countries, the U.S. and Mexico.
Two very different investigations, it seems. This story, fundamentally, it feels like it's about the fight for truth against, well, a wall of what looks like deliberate fabrication.
Okay, so let's start by unpacking who Shanquella was. Because her background, I think, it makes what happened feel even more jarring.
Absolutely.
She wasn't just anybody. She was driven, an entrepreneur, graduated from Winston-Salem State University,
Yeah.
ran two businesses successfully.
Right, exquisite kids for hair braiding and exquisite boutique, her fashion line.
Exactly. A businesswoman, very active on social media, apparently.
And her family described her as kind, hardworking. This wasn't some spur-of-the-moment reckless trip,
No, it sounds like it was a well-planned luxury getaway.
with people she knew, or, well, thought she knew.
That's a key point. She traveled to the Puerto Los Cabos resort, this luxury rental apartment, with 5 other people.
The group that's now often called the Cabo Six.
Right, including Shanquella.
And it's probably important we lay out who was there, based on the sources.
Yeah.
You had Khalil Cook, Melik Dyer, Wender Donovan, Alyssa Hyatt, Dashani Jackson, and Nazir Wiggins.
And there's a really crucial detail from the sources about the relationships here. Shanquella's mother, Salamandra, she later said she didn't really know most of them.
Oh, really?
Yeah, except for Khalil Cook. He's considered a close friend, apparently been on family trips before.
So that dynamic, a group where maybe loyalties were split or kind of new, that could become really relevant later.
Highly relevant. So the initial scene, October 28th, it looked like the luxury trip they'd planned. Social media, Instagram stories specifically, showed them having fun.
Yeah, like drinking games. I even had a private chef doing tacos that night.
Exactly. Everything seemed, pretty normal for a high-end vacation on the surface.
But this is where things take that first really, really unsettling turn. The evening of the 28th, around 8:45 p.m., a video gets posted.
And it's posted to Shanquella's own Instagram story, recorded by Khalil.
Which is weird in itself. And the video, it shows Shanquella in a really vulnerable state.
Yeah, the sources describe her as completely passed out on a hammock, just gone.
And the commentary on the video, recorded by her friend, it's just chilling now, looking back.
Absolutely chilling. He's joking, saying, got our first dead body. Body.
That phrase, first dead body, even as a joke, given what the autopsy later found, it just lands so differently. It's macabre.
It really is. It
Yeah.
suggests maybe a level of flippancy, or maybe an awareness that she was really compromised. It makes the later events feel almost not inevitable, but maybe predictable, or at least less surprising.
Yeah, maybe even premeditated, some might argue, though we can't know that.
And that odd tone seems to have carried over into the next morning, October 29th.
Right. There's that other strange video the sources mention, recorded on Shanquella's own phone this time.
Yeah, she's walking around the villa, seems to be looking for everyone else. You can hear her asking where they are, kind of joking, lighthearted.
But when she finds them, they're all sort of clustered together in a room without her.
And if you watch that footage, the sources point out, Shanquella seems okay, like ready for the day, cheerful even. But the body language of the others,
Especially the women in the group.
yeah, it seems off. It's the word used, like tense, maybe clicked up, separate from her.
Mhm.
And this, quiet tension, It's fueled a lot of speculation online, citizen journalists and people following the case closely. Did the mood shift overnight? Was there a fight? Did they plan something?
We don't know for sure, of course. It's speculation based on that footage.
Right. But what we can confirm is that whatever happened next, it led to this fundamental split. Two completely different stories about how she died.
Which brings us right to part 2. These two incompatible timelines. The story the companions told, the initial police report, versus the forensic evidence. It's the absolute core of this deep dive.
Okay, let's start with the narrative the travel companions put forward, because initially that was the only story the authorities had.
Right.
So shortly after 2:00 p.m. on October 29th, Shanquella's mother, Salamandra, gets a call. It's from one of the companions, Khalil Cook.
And what does he say?
He claims Shanquella is really sick, dehydrated, disoriented, severely intoxicated. That's the story from the jump.
Alcohol.
Interesting how quickly they landed on that. Extreme intoxication. So, okay, 2:13 p.m., another companion, Winter Donovan, calls the resort asking for a doctor.
Right. And Dr. Carolina Beatriz Ornelas Gutierrez arrives from the American Medical Center around 3:15 p.m.
Okay, so a doctor is on the scene.
Yes. And Dr. Ornelas Gutierrez's initial observations. Well, they seem to kind of back up the group's story at first glance.
She found Shanquella conscious, but yeah, in poor condition. Dehydrated, disoriented, not really responding verbally, and appearing intoxicated.
Okay.
So the doctor makes a critical recommendation. She needs to go to the hospital immediately.
Makes sense. But here's where the story starts to fray, right? The companions, they insisted she be treated there, in the apartment.
They absolutely insisted. They refused the doctor's advice to transfer her, even though she was clearly in serious condition.
Why? What reason did they give?
Well, the reason they apparently gave later to Salamandra, Shanquella's mother, is even more suspect.
Okay.
They claimed the emergency room demanded $5,000 cash up front for treatment, and that Shanquella's travel insurance was basically useless in Mexico.
$5,000 cash? That sounds off.
It sounds very off, and multiple sources debunked this pretty quickly. The idea that a hospital would refuse potentially life-saving care to an American tourist over a specific cash demand like that, especially given Mexican healthcare costs versus the U.S., it just didn't hold water.
Right. It strained credulity immediately.
Exactly. And this refusal, based on what seems like a total fabrication, it becomes a huge red flag. It suggests they were trying to control the situation, right?
Yeah.
Keep her out of a hospital where her actual injuries
would have been immediately obvious.
Precisely. They prioritized keeping her there over her well-being.
So what happened while she was being treated or not treated properly in the room?
Her condition got much worse, dramatically worse. Around 4:13 p.m., this is about an hour after the doctor arrived, she suffered a severe tonic-clonic seizure.
Oh, wow. Okay, so that's serious.
Very serious. Paramedics were called finally at 4:20 p.m., and then she went into cardiac arrest.
So a seizure, then cardiac arrest.
Yeah, and the sources detail just these intense final efforts to save her life. Paramedics finally get there at 4:49 p.m.
Almost half an hour after the call.
Yeah, and they went all out. 14 rounds of CPR, grueling, 5 doses of adrenaline, 6 shocks from a defibrillator.
Just desperate measures.
Totally. But tragically, it wasn't enough. The police report, filed by these officers, Omar and David, it states she was declared clinically dead at 5:57 p.m.
Okay, 5:57 p.m.
Based entirely on what the companions told them and maybe the doctor's initial assessment of too much alcohol.
The police concluded death by alcohol poisoning.
That was it. That was the official story. And that narrative initially dominated the news, even led the U.S. State Department to say there was no clear evidence Robinson was murdered.
Based on nothing but the companion's potentially self-serving story.
Pretty much. But then, let's flip the script completely, because just days later, the forensic truth comes out.
The autopsy.
The autopsy. Conducted by Dr. Renee A. Galvano-Segura. The death certificate is dated November 4th, released the next day, and it just delivered a complete, stunning reversal.
Okay, this is critical. What did the autopsy say?
Official cause of death, severe spinal cord injury, and atlas luxation.
Atlas luxation. What exactly is that?
It's a very specific, catastrophic injury. It means the atlas, which is the very first bone in your neck, right below the skull.
Okay.
It got dislocated or separated from the base of the skull, the occipital bone.
That sounds incredibly violent.
It is. It's not a common injury at all.
Oh, yeah.
It usually requires extreme violent force, like the head being violently yanked or twisted or hit with severe blunt trauma. It's almost always immediately life-threatening or fatal.
Wow. Okay, so not alcohol poisoning, a broken neck, essentially.
Essentially, yes, a
Yeah.
catastrophic neck injury. And the timeline associated with this violent injury, it makes the companion story impossible.
How so?
The autopsy specified the approximate time between when the injury happened and death was only 15 minutes.
15 minutes.
15 minutes, let that take in.
So, not the 4 hours they talked about. From the doctor arriving around 3:15 p.m. to her dying at almost 6 p.m.
Absolutely not. The autopsy puts the time of death at 3 p.m.
3 p.m. But wait, the doctor arrived at 3:50 p.m., and the companion said she was sick before that.
Exactly. If Shanquella suffered a fatal spinal injury around, say, 2:45 p.m. and died 15 minutes later at 3 p.m., she could not have been alive, conscious but disoriented, receiving care from the doctor half an hour later.
Let alone have a seizure at 4:13 p.m.
Impossible. The death certificate doesn't mention cardiac arrest. It doesn't mention alcohol poisoning. It mentions the neck injury.
This just blows their whole story out of the water.
Completely. It exposes the companion narrative as, well, it looks like an outright, deliberate fabrication, a cover-up for a violent act.
And that 3 p.m. time of death, caused by a broken neck, it directly contradicts the initial police conclusion, which raises huge questions.
Huge questions, like why didn't the first police officers on the scene notice any signs of fatal physical trauma when they secured the body? How did they just accept the alcohol story?
It's deeply troubling. And that massive discrepancy, that forensic incompatibility, it paved the way for part 3. The truth through social media and the family's fight.
Because the family, they had doubts right away, especially given how the stories kept changing.
Yeah, the parents, Salamandra and Bernard Robinson, the sources say they noted immediately they were getting different and inconsistent stories from the Cabo Six.
Even on small details, apparently.
Like what?
Like where Shanquella was supposedly found unconscious? They couldn't even get that straight.
Seriously.
Yeah. One apparently claimed a maid found her. Another said she was just found in bed. A third told her father she was slumped in a chair.
Wow. If you're trying to cover something up, you'd think you'd at least get the basic discovery story straight.
You'd think. And this sort of concealment, it continued even when the family started hearing other things.
Like what?
Salamandra apparently got an anonymous call suggesting there had been a fight.
Okay.
But when she confronted the group about it, they stuck to the alcohol poisoning story.
Yeah.
Right up until that death certificate went public.
And then?
And then complete silence. All communication from the Cabo Six just stopped.
Yeah.
Vanished.
Telling. And then there was the evidence the family saw with their own eyes. When Shanquella's body was returned to the U.S., November 12th, her mother saw the trauma.
Yes, she described obvious signs of severe external trauma. A bruised face, a swollen eye, a busted lip.
A noticeable contusion and swelling on her head.
Exactly. Classic signs of a physical assault. Completely inconsistent with just cardiac arrest or alcohol poisoning.
So the mother's observations backed up the autopsy, but still, that wasn't enough for immediate charges in the U.S., right?
Apparently not. The real tipping point, the thing that connected the violence, the body trauma, and the autopsy findings in a way no one could ignore, that came on November 16th.
The leaked video.
The leaked video. This cell phone footage just started spreading like wildfire across social media.
And it showed. Well, it showed the assault.
It showed a naked woman, later confirmed by Salamandra to be Shanquella, being viciously attacked by one of the other women in the group, in the villa bedroom.
The sources point strongly to Dyshana Jackson as the attacker in that video.
Yes, and the brutality.
Yeah.
It's hard to watch, but the sources detail it clearly. Continuous, rapid jabs to Shanquella's head.
Being beaten back and forth across the bed, thrown onto the floor.
And then, the most critical part, give the autopsy. The attacker is seen violently yanking her neck and kicking her head.
Violently yanking her neck.
That detail cannot be overstated. It provides the exact mechanism of injury needed to cause that atlas luxation, that separation of the skull from the spine.
The video physically confirmed how the fatal injury likely happened.
It did. And what's just as horrifying, maybe more so in some ways, is the role of the bystanders.
Right. The sources say at least 2 others were there, filming.
Filming the assault. And a male voice, believed to be Khalil Cook.
The friend who called the mother.
Yeah. He's urging her, Quella, can you at least fight back? At least summon.
And Shanquella's response?
Just no.
So it wasn't a fight.
Clearly not. This detail is pivotal. It refutes any idea this was mutual combat, some kind of brawl. She was the victim of a vicious one-sided attack.
And the bystanders filming, egging it on, they were complicit. Not just in the assault itself, but surely in the cover-up afterward. They saw what happened. They knew it wasn't alcohol.
Absolutely. They must have known. And the public outrage when this video came out, it was seismic.
It had to be.
It forced a massive escalation in the investigation. It gave the family the undeniable proof they needed, directly contradicting that initial flimsy police conclusion.
And we should probably give credit where it's due here, too, right? The role of citizen journalism.
Definitely. The sources mentioned the collaborative efforts of, like, amateur news bloggers, regional journalists like Gerardo Zuniga down in Mexico. They were crucial.
Keeping the story alive when maybe mainstream media wasn't picking it up initially.
Exactly. Keeping the spotlight on it, making sure the video and the family's claims couldn't be ignored or just swept under the rug by authorities. Without that digital pressure, you have to wonder if the official fabrication might have actually stuck.
It's a chilling thought. So the video changed everything legally, which takes us into part 4, the transnational investigation and the legal hurdles. Because now the truth is out, but you've got international borders involved.
Right. On November 16th, the very same day that video really blew up, the State Attorney General's Office of Baja California Surajó the PGGE. They formally reopened the investigation.
And they didn't just reopen it, they escalated the charge. Right.
They did, to a possible femicide.
Which, in the Mexican legal system, that's a very significant charge. It's not just homicide, it's recognizing the victim's gender as a factor in the intentional violent killing.
Exactly. It signals they viewed this with the utmost seriousness, not just some random assault. They were committed to prosecuting it as such.
And they moved fast.
Pretty fast. By November 23rd, 2022, the PGJE issued an arrest warrant for the direct aggressor identified in context as Diane Jackson, an American female, in relation to homicide.
And the Attorney General there, Daniel de la Rosa Anaya, he went public, right, clarifying things.
He did. He stated very clearly, the death was not from alcohol. It was not a simple fight. It was direct assault, causing a spinal cord fracture.
Yeah.
No ambiguity.
Okay, so Mexico has a warrant for homicide based on assault causing a broken neck. But the suspect
Had already flown back to the United States along with the rest of the group.
Right, which creates this immediate, huge challenge. How do you get her back across the border to face trial in Mexico?
Extradition. It's a complex beast.
So what did Mexico do?
They issued an Interpol red alert.
Okay, what does that mean exactly? Is it like an international arrest warrant?
Not exactly. A red alert isn't a warrant itself, but it's a formal request to police forces worldwide to locate and provisionally arrest someone pending extradition.
So it puts them on notice globally.
Yeah, it seriously limits the suspect's ability to travel internationally and puts them directly under the scrutiny of federal agencies in their home country, in this case the U.S.
But getting the actual extradition approved, that's the slow part.
Very slow, very bureaucratic. The formal request from Mexico has to be reviewed by major U.S. departments, State Department, Office of Internal Affairs.
Before a U.S. judge can even issue a warrant for her arrest in the U.S. based on the Mexican charges.
Right. And the cooperation between the two countries needs to be really tight, which adds layers of complexity, different legal standards for evidence, things like that.
Okay, so that process is grinding along. But meanwhile, we also have some contradictory stuff coming from one of the other companions, right? Zero Wiggins.
Yeah, his story. He claimed he arrived late to the villa.
What did he say specifically?
He claimed publicly that he got to the resort at 3:30 p.m. on October 29th, and Shanquella was still alive then.
3:30 p.m., but the death certificate says time of death was 3:0 p.m.?
Exactly. His timeline is impossible to reconcile with the official forensic finding. If she died at 3 p.m. from injuries sustained 15 minutes earlier.
She couldn't have been alive half an hour later.
No. And he went further, claiming he moved her to a quiet area, rubbed her head, played music for her.
Rubbed her head. Given what her mother saw later, the swelling, the bruising.
It's deeply suspicious. If he was supposedly comforting someone who had just suffered fatal head and neck trauma, surely he would have noticed those severe physical signs.
But he maintained the alcohol story, too.
It seems so. His whole timeline, his narrative of involvement, it looks very much like it was constructed to fit the cover story and deflect from whatever happened before 3 p.m.
Okay, so that's another piece that doesn't fit. And what about potential wrongdoing on the Mexican side? Were they looking into the initial response?
Yes. Crucially, they were. The sources indicate Mexican authorities weren't just looking at the companions. They were also investigating potential negligence or misconduct by others involved initially.
Like who?
Like the doctor, Dr. Ornelas Gutierrez, the two first responding police officers, Omar and David, maybe even the state attorney. For negligence, official misconduct, dereliction of duty.
Because that initial police report was just so fundamentally flawed.
Completely. It ignored what seemed like obvious signs of trauma signs the mother spotted days later and just took the suspect's word for it about alcohol poisoning.
If those initial responders had done a proper job, recognized the injuries, the whole cover-up might have collapsed right there.
It might have. Meanwhile, back in the U.S., the FBI launched its own investigation.
Right, a parallel track.
Yeah.
The Charlotte field office opened their own case on November 18th, just 2 days after the video leak.
This was separate from the Mexican inquiry. The idea was to see if federal charges could be brought against U.S. citizens for crimes committed abroad.
Okay, so the FBI is investigating too. What came of that?
This is where it gets really shocking for the family and many observers. In April 2023, the FBI announced that federal prosecutors would not be seeking charges.
No charges, despite everything. The video, the autopsy, the Mexican warrant.
No federal charges. They cited insufficient evidence to meet the high standard required for a U.S. federal prosecution.
Insufficient evidence. That's hard to comprehend given the video alone.
It is. And that decision needs intense scrutiny. The U.S. government essentially said, we see the video, we acknowledge the Mexican autopsy finding violent death. We know Mexico wants this person for homicide. But we don't think we can prove it in our federal courts.
Which highlights just how massive these legal hurdles can be, especially across borders.
Immense hurdles. And the FBI's decision, while obviously devastating for the family, it basically put all the pressure, all the weight of accountability onto the success of that Mexican extradition request.
Because the U.S. isn't obligated to prosecute its citizens for crimes abroad.
No, and they're not obligated to just immediately hand them over either. It's a complex legal and diplomatic process. Their decision not to file federal charges shifted the entire battleground.
Okay, so let's try to synthesize this for you, the listener. What have we learned? We see this horrifying sequence unfold.
Yeah, the initial story, the calculated narrative from the travel companion Shanquella died over 4 hours from alcohol poisoning that was just a complete lie.
The truth, confirmed by the death certificate, confirmed by that awful video, was she was brutally assaulted. She likely suffered a fatal spinal injury, that atlas luxation, in maybe just 15 minutes, around 3 p.m.
And the fact that they refused hospitalization, using that bogus $5,000 cash story, it points straight towards trying to control the situation, hide the violence before anyone official could see the real injuries.
And the accountability, it has to go beyond just the person throwing the punches in the video, right?
Absolutely. The people who stood by, who filmed it, who maybe even encouraged it, who definitely prevented proper medical care for what turned out to be a broken neck, and then lied about it for weeks, they were undeniably complicit in the assault, in the cover-up.
It really underscores how important it is to be critical of those initial reports, especially when they're based only on what the people involved are saying.
For sure. So this leaves us with a final kind of provocative thought to chew on related to justice across borders. When you have a heinous crime like this committed abroad and you have what looks like irrefutable digital evidence, like that video, how should justice systems handle it? Especially when you have this split. One country, Mexico, issues a homicide warrant, while the other country, the U.S., where the suspect is, declines federal charges for insufficient evidence.
It's a huge disconnect.
It is. And the challenge for Shanquella's family is just immense. This protracted legal fight across international borders, the outcome of Mexico's ongoing extradition efforts. It's going to set a really critical precedent, for how similar cases U.S. citizens accused of violent crimes abroad are handled in the future.
So it's definitely a case to keep following, to see how or if these different legal systems can bridge that gap between the forensic truth and actual legal accountability.
Absolutely.
Thank you for joining us on this really difficult deep dive. We appreciate you listening. We'll see you next time.